Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Some massive news for the LSU Tigers this Friday morning as they land the commitment from four-star edge rusher Gabriel Reliford from the state of Louisiana, and a few talking points about Gabe Reliford that you're really excited about. But first, you got to start with the production on the football field Friday nights. And I feel like a lot of times the recruiting conversation has a lot more to do with the measurables, the height, weight, and the track times, as opposed to what these guys are doing on the football field. Take a look at Gabe Reliford as a sophomore in high school. And one of the more impressive stat lines that you will see out of this 2024 class, 100 tackles, 28 tackles for a loss, 15 sacks. I mean, forget what he does. And we'll talk about his track times, which are pretty damn impressive as well. What he's done on the football field the last couple of years, going back to that sophomore season, has been extremely impressive. And you take a look at how the recruiting services value Gabe Reliford. 24/7 Sports are a little low on him. Not sure how they can have that with those stats I just listed from that sophomore year. You look at On3, top 100 national kid, 7th best defensive lineman in the class. I mean, this is a really good get for the LSU Tigers. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. And this is an LSU team that we're going to be talking a lot about over the next couple of weeks. Brian Kelly going to be active in the transfer portal, getting this roster right in the 2024 season, going to be trying to break it all down here. So if y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, the amount of support you guys have shown the boys over the last couple of weeks, it really does mean a lot. And without further ado, let's get into Gabe Reliford. Guy that, again, production on the field, massive. Just read him off, 100 tackles, 28 tackles for loss, 15 sacks is an absolute insane sophomore season. Had a very similar junior season as well. What's most impressive about Gabe Reliford is you take a look at what he's done on the track and field. In 11.7 100-meter dash time at 250 plus pounds. I don't think I've seen a number from a kid that's 250 pounds running that fast in the 100-meter dash. And those are guys, that's a wide receiver track time for a guy who's 250 pounds. And we're going to turn on the film in just a second. You're going to see that burst. You're going to see that play speed show up on his film. But before we get into the film, I want to talk about one thing that we've talked about a lot in the context of LSU, and that is for LSU to get back to where it belongs, it needs to recruit the state of Louisiana at an extremely high level, and you're starting to see that under Brian Kelly. And I think one of the bigger questions that you had with Brian Kelly taking this job was, how can he recruit the state of Louisiana and recruit the area where LSU gets a lot of their talent, right? Texas, Florida, and that southeast United States. Look at what Brian Kelly's doing in the state of Louisiana, right? Obviously, you'll lose out on Dominic McKinley, but this is how recruiting should look for LSU within the state. All the top kids in Louisiana going to LSU. Exactly how it should look. So if you're an LSU fan, you know Brian Kelly is going to maximize the talent on his roster. He's one of the better college football coaches that we see in all of college football. The one question was, how is he going to be able to recruit the state of Louisiana? I mean, I think we're seeing our answer. He's doing a pretty damn good job of it. Now, turning on the film for Gabe Reliford, I don't want to discredit what he's done on the football field. This is a guy that, again, going back to that 11.7 100-meter dash time, you see that right here. I mean, right off the line of scrimmage, closing speed on the quarterback. This is a guy that lives in opponents' backfields and also plays extremely physical against the run, right? Block destruction, making plays beyond the line of scrimmage. 28 tackles for a loss as a sophomore. He wins with speed around the edge. He can win with power in his hands, taking on blocks. And he's a guy that, I mean, in a lot of different ways, you can line him up all over the field as well. You're going to see him win in a multitude of different ways, whether it's winning inside, whether it's winning outside. You're going to see him line up as an off-ball linebacker at some points and make plays. This is a guy who's a difference maker, who I think is a playmaker in this front seven. And the next play you're going to see is him kind of lining up as an off-ball linebacker and just kind of freelancing a little bit and being a playmaker. We got one more play, I guess, before we get to that. Again, speed off the edge, making tackles. This is a guy that really does excite me because you can use him in a lot of different ways. He can stop the run. He can win with speed. Here you go, seeing him kind of as a stand-up off-ball backer here, and he has the athleticism to do so, right? He's going to time up this snap, get right into the backfield, take on a block, and win with speed, win with power, and make a play. This is a guy that's extremely impressive, and you take a look at this LSU class in 2024, there are a lot of guys that are coming in that really excite you. My personal favorite, Trey'Dez Green, the tight end, 6'7", 240 pounds, basketball player too. If you've seen some of his film from his senior year, this guy is an absolute matchup nightmare. And you look at that tight end position for LSU, it's going to be really hard to not have Trey'Dez Green playing early as a true freshman. But you scroll down the list, and the playmakers you have on offense, Jelani Watkins, one of the fastest in the class, Kalen Billett, a guy with size and speed. And then obviously one of my personal favorites, Caden Durham. Again, one of the fastest guys in this 2024 class, thick lower half. You're really excited about the playmakers that LSU's bringing in on the offense. And then you grab one in Gabriel Reliford, who's a difference maker on that defensive line. Now, to get into a few guys that I think LSU is targeting in the transfer portal, I want to go to the SEC conference and talk about Will Shepard, who LSU might be losing some really good wide receivers. Obviously, Malik Neighbors, arguably the best wide receiver in the country right now. Replacing some of that talent, Will Shepard, a Louisiana kid who did not go to LSU out of high school, end up going to Vanderbilt, kind of was an underrated cat coming from the state. You take a look at what Will Shepard's done in the SEC the last couple of years on an offense that we all know Vanderbilt offense ain't great. When good things were happening, it was Will Shepard. Over 1,400 yards the last 2 years receiving, 18 touchdowns. This is a guy that's going to be a red zone threat, 6'3", 200 pounds, and all-around solid receiver. Good frame, can stretch the field vertically, can create separation, very good in those combat catch situations. You look at LSU and some holes that they might want to fill in their depth chart. I mean, that wide receiver position, although there's a lot of young talent that you feel good about, getting a veteran receiver like Will Shepard in for that 2024 year would mean massive things for LSU. And then obviously in the secondary. And this is an LSU team that if they had that secondary right, this was going to be one of the more dangerous teams in all of college football. And we kind of said that heading in. And obviously it didn't really get right. Couldn't really figure it out on the defensive side of the ball, especially in that back end. You know Brian Kelly is going to get active and just getting bodies in there to compete and see what guys are going to make it work. Jordan Gilbert, a guy that coming out of high school, extremely talented, ends up going to Texas A&M, hits the transfer portal from Baton Rouge, would be a really nice addition for this LSU team. And again, what the focus needs to be on is getting competition and depth in that back end. I mean, they had to go to some guys that just, quite frankly, did not belong on an SEC football field in that defensive back room with all the injuries that they had to go through. Getting more quality SEC players in that defensive back room is going to be absolutely massive. Jordan Gilbert, one of the guys that I'm keeping an eye on. And again, every top cornerback that you see, top cornerback and safety, I should say, that you see hit the portal, like LSU, it has to be in on them because you have to figure out that defensive back room. You feel good about this roster and the young talent that you have, but you want to get some experienced bodies in there, especially in that back end. Jordan Gilbert, a guy like Will Shepard, two Louisiana kids that could find their way back to LSU would be absolutely massive. Again, this is a team we're going to be talking about over the next couple of weeks. They're going to get active in the transfer portal. Appreciate you guys checking the boys out. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.